Hi all, welcome to Eliza's Notes. I am Achsha Suresh, third year BA English Literature student of K College Mananam, and today we will be discussing the chapter The Harp of India in the first module of Indian Writing in English. First of all, we will take a look at the writer of this poem. Henry Louis Vivian Derozio is regarded as the first modern Indian English poet, and he was born in 1809. He was also known as the first national poet of modern India and ironically remembered as forgotten Anglo-Indian poet. And this title is given to him is actually the subtitle of one of his collection of work, Poems of Henry Louis Vivian Derozio. His father was Indo-Portuguese and mother was British. In spite of this little Indian blood, he loved the country where he was born. He loved India. He led the Young Bengal movement and he died of cholera at the prime age of 22. The poem, The Harp of India, is one of the most iconic poems of Derozio, and here the poet is lamenting about the past glory of India. He is mourning on the loss of India's cultural spirit and the decline of our traditional art and literature under the British rule. And he also remembers our past writers and musicians of India who built our culture. When we analyze the form of the poem, Derozio has chosen the sonnet form with 14 lines and it can be divided into two parts. In the first part, the poet is mourning on the spectacular past, while in the other, he hopes for the glory to be regained. That is the problem and the resolution. Now, let us analyze the significance of the title. You might have already noticed the word harp in the title of this poem. In this poem, Derozio addresses the harp. He used this word in the poem to symbolize the Indian literary tradition and Indian poetic tradition. We can also see that it refers to the rich and varied Indian culture. Harp was one of the most important instruments in Derozio's country of origin, that is Portugal. And that might be the reason why he chose this particular instrument as a symbol in this poem. Now, let's discuss the poem in detail. Before moving on, I would like to remind you that during Derozio's time, British had completely colonized India, not only physically but also mentally, thus chaining the mental capabilities of people during the colonial regime. We had lost our indigenous traditions and culture. This is what Derozio explains in this poem, the impact of colonialism that led to the loss of cultural and literary tradition of India. Why hang'st thou lonely on your withered bow? Unstrung forever must thou there remain. Thy music once was sweet, who hears it now? Why doth the breeze sigh over thee in vain? The poem opens with a rhetorical question. Why hang'st thou lonely on your withered bough? Here, thou refers to the harp, and the poet is asking, why are you hanging alone on the dry branch, and it lies there neglected on the barren environment? The withered bough symbolizes the dried out state. And the second line, unstrung forever must thou there remain. See, what's your condition right now? You are unstrung, and we know that stringed instruments will no longer produce sounds once its strings are broken. And so, this is what happened with the harp here. The unstrung harp cannot compose any song. And the poet is asking, are you supposed to remain that poetic tradition had a glorious past once in such a neglected state? In the third line, thy music once was sweet, who hears it now? The poet says that your music was once melodious, it was pleasant to the ears, and the harp used to produce amazing music in the past. Here, the poet is recollecting the past state of the Indian poetry, but no one hears it now. The next line, why doth the breeze sigh over thee in vain? The breeze is blowing over the broken harp, but it makes no difference. No music is produced from the harp. Silence hath bound thee with her fatal chain. Neglected, mute, and desolate art thou, like ruined monument on desert plain. The fifth line, silence hath bound thee with her fatal chain. See, what happened to the harpies? Silence had confined the harp with deadly chain. The colonial rule had made the Indian poetic tradition mute, or it made the Indian poet silent. And thus, what happened to the poetry is it lies neglected, mute and desolate art thou. And now it is like a ruined monument on desert plain, which is abandoned, which is in a deteriorated state, which means our Indian poetry is like a ruined monument. O many hand, a more far worthier than mine, once thy harmonious chords to sweetness gave, and many a wreath for them did fame entwine, of flowers still blooming on the minstrel's grave. The first part of the poem is melancholic, and the second part begins with mourn and ends with hope. So, the eighth line, Oh, many a heart, more worthy far than mine, once thy harmonious chords to sweetness gave. Here he says that there were many hands that are worthier than mine, touched the strings of the harp, and they produced sweet songs, that is, the ancient poet produced, melodious verses. In the next line, and many a wreath for them did fame entwine, of flowers still blooming on the minstrel's grave. We already saw that hands which touched the harp have created melodious music, and those melodious verses bring the poets enough fame. In this line, fame is personified because fame is weaving a wreath for the poets. Those flowers are still blooming on the minstrel's grave. That means the art which created is immortal, and that art brings life to the poets. The next lines, Those hands are cold, but if thy notes divine, maybe by mortal wakened once again, harp of my country, let me strike again. In the end, the poet says, Those hands are cold. Hands here refers to poets who are dead now, but he decides to revive their works and hopes that the lost glory of India will be back again. The poet says that now that they are dead, he decides to revive their literature and thus bring the glory of Indian culture back, which is lost now. He wished to strike this harp once again to awaken India's poetry, and he says he will try his best. That brings us to the end of the session. I hope you like this video. Thank you for watching.